During this segment of the PA DUI Association's online version of the Alcohol Highway Safety School, we'll show you a video that demonstrates how alcohol diminishes driving skills, and how in many cases the drinking driver doesn't realize how impaired they really are. Be ready to write down any interesting observations you make during the video, and at the end we'll ask you a couple of questions based on the event.
One out of every 5 fatal alcohol crashes involve drivers who only had a few drinks and were not considered legally impaired. In the United States, more people have died in alcohol-related crashes than in all the wars America has ever fought. In Pennsylvania alone, 500 people die every year because of drunk drivers. Members of the Pennsylvania DUI Association, along with a group of volunteers, are conducting a study to demonstrate how both large and small amounts of alcohol can dramatically affect the basic driving skills of adults 21 and over. To accurately measure how small amounts of alcohol can reduce everyone's driving skills and endanger their own safety as well as everyone around them. Volunteer drivers are spending the day testing their driving abilities sober, and then again several hours later when their blood alcohol level reaches 0.08. This was done under the careful supervision of Pennsylvania law enforcement.
Before drinking any alcohol, each driver will take practice runs to become familiar with the various courses and to establish base scores while sober for later comparison. Let's take a look at each of the 6 different courses being used. This is called the narrow lane. Drivers must keep their cars centered safely between the cones. The serpentine requires concentration and complete control of the steering wheel while making sharp turns and maintaining a constant speed. Another course is called the emergency stop. Here, drivers will receive a verbal command. Stop! The emergency stop is designed to simulate real-life situations, such as a young child who suddenly darts into the street. Parallel parking is important in order to avoid damaging other parked cars and to make sure you don't partially block the street. Judging distance is an important part of this course. Even at 5 miles per hour, you'd be surprised at how little alcohol it takes to impair your ability to stop your car accurately. Finally, we have the evasive lane change course. Here, drivers are tested for quick reaction time and the ability to steer their car and safely change lanes.
I volunteered. I think it's a good cause to do for the 0.08 and just to do it, I think.
Well, I volunteered to do this for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to be able to provide something back to the community. I think it's a good public service. And 2, for my own edification, to see how alcohol affects me and impairs me, and give me an idea of what kind of threshold I can sustain when I drink.
I volunteered to do this because I'm a journalist, and my newspaper has written a series earlier this year about drunk driving in Pennsylvania, and I wanted to do a first-person piece about really what it's like to drive under the influence. Everyone I know probably goes out and has a couple drinks with dinner, and I wanted to write about what that's like and give people a first-person account of that.
I volunteered basically because I think it's a good cause. It's going to help out, eliminate, maybe reduce some of the DUIs we're having in the States and in the country, and it's a serious matter that needs to be addressed.
It'll certainly be interesting to me as a professional race driver whether the alcohol will actually put me at a level above or below the rest of the drivers.
Well, let's go to the bar where the drivers are enjoying lunch and a few drinks on the house.
Thank you.
Really bad sober driving.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
Terry, explain the documentation that we're doing on each of the drivers.
Each of our 5 drivers have a coach assigned to them who will come over and get their drink for them, take it back to them at the table. Then the bartender, who knows exactly what each person's drinking, pours the drink. Then Mr. McCurdy, who is our scorekeeper back here, he monitors and documents everything that they've had. The next phase of this will be to do a breathalyzer test. This test will give us our BAC levels and determine when the people are under the influence, that we can then begin the last phase of driving.
Drivers are now drinking their alcoholic beverage of choice in a controlled environment. Drivers will continue drinking until their BAC reaches 0.08. BAC stands for blood alcohol concentration.
Listen, you can't be responsible in a controlled setting. You obviously
Then you don't need to be here.
I watch a lot of ESPN.
I'm done.
I cannot know. I cannot. Take your roll. Here, watch these freaks. Watch them. You're just laughing really funny. To be polite.
Hey, did they want to breathalyze?
I was going to say, this is my 3rd one.
No, that's your 4th one.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
A really bad sober driving. I do not feel like I could drive.
Do you think you're too drunk to drive?
I would not want to drive with me if I were me.
Would you
No.
would you consent to a field sobriety test?
Absolutely.
All right, well, come along with me.
Alrighty.
Lift the foot up, whatever foot's comfortable for you. Point your toe, keep it 6 inches off the ground. Keep your hands at your sides. Count to 30 by 1,000s.
18, 1019, 1020, 1021, 1022, 1023, 1024.
This instrument tests each driver's breath to determine how much alcohol is in the blood. This machine is commonly used throughout the United States by law enforcement.
Now it's time for our first driver, Susan, to test her driving skills while under the influence.
There was one donut left when I was sober, and I said to them, hey, guys, there's only one donut left. Do you mind if I take it? You know, them being cops and donuts.
Stop right there.
They didn't think that was too funny. And I apologized, and I don't think the blonde guy ever forgave me.
Okay.
40.
40, not 4, 40.
Oh, I hit 40 count.
You hit 40 count. 40, 40. 40 out of 51.
Oh my,
You left 11.
Yeah. That's terrible.
Stop!
We're ready. You're in park.
again.
It was just very scary. You get to the end and it just changes at the last minute and you just don't know which way to go.
Let's see that again. Susan, I'm sure that was not your best performance ever.
No, it wasn't. I was definitely better sober. That is for sure. Definitely does not pay to drink and drive even one drink. I was only at a .08 and did horribly, and I would never drive at this intoxication level. So I just recommend not driving even after one drink. It's just not worth it.
Let's watch as our attorney Andy has his day in court.
I do not feel like I could drive.
Good speed. Speed. Keep it going. Keep it going. Get right.
Stop!
Do not drive like this.
Wait till you see what's next. Well, your reaction time was seemingly off. How did you feel about the whole course?
I had no business being on it. I mean, we were just talking over there at the tables. I don't even remember 9/10 of it. I remember starting it. Other than that, I don't even remember the course. Quite frankly, I don't know where my BAC was, but I cannot remember trying to navigate and negotiate those turns and all the curriculum of the course.
Monica's turn next. Let's see how she does while impaired.
This is absurd.
Yeah. And we have people 3 times this level that think nothing
Oh my God.
about getting behind the wheel of the car.
My personal highest arrest is a 3.8.
Yeah. And do it 2 or 3 times a month.
Stop! Let's see that again.
It was horrific. horrific. Every prosecutor, every judge and DA in the state should have to do this. There's no reason anyone should be behind the wheel like this. It was miserable. I'm sure that I was 2 or 3 times worse behind the wheel than I was before I'd had anything to drink.
Chad knows computers, but let's see if this course computes.
Personally, do you feel too impaired to drive?
No,
on the highway?
I don't. I know I shouldn't because I've been drinking.
Right.
But
in your personal opinion, though, you don't feel that impaired that you couldn't drive on the highway?
Exactly. I feel capable of driving.
How much did you have to drink?
6.5 beers.
6.5 beers.
Yeah. I think that after you drink, you should not drive. Definitely. I felt like my reaction was a lot less responsive, and it's kind of scary when you think about it. It's kind of scary because I didn't have that much to drink.
How do these folks compare before and after?
Well, the reaction times are noticeably different. They're much more exaggerated since they've been drinking, especially with the braking test and the stoplight. From the time they notice the stop or the time I say stop, you can feel the pause before they actually step on the brakes or make the turn.
Bobby's a professional race car driver, but will he get the yellow flag?
I misjudged where I was. There's no question about that. I thought I was putting it right where I needed to be, and obviously I was in a little bit too far by an inch or two, but obviously a bit of an impairment there.
Hold on, gotta get my bell on there. Hold on, we gotta strap him in.
For some reason there, I caught that and you know.
How was it from in there?
You know, it's basically hand-eye to what you see in front of you, and that obviously is greatly impaired by what we've drinking today.
There was definite signs of impairment all around the course. Just in observing the drivers themselves, they became talkative, more talkative than the first time through, repetitive with their questions. Some of them fumbled with the seat belts. If those cones were kids, they wouldn't have stood a chance. Absolutely no way.
Remember, 1 out of every 5 fatal alcohol crashes involve drivers who only had a few drinks and were not considered legally impaired. Even a few drinks could spell disaster. Do our volunteers agree? Yeah! It's important that you grab a pen and paper and write down the upcoming information and contact the Pennsylvania DUI Association to find out how you can help or to find out how to get help. Thank you for watching. I hope you'll help us save lives, including yours. Remember, people who continue to drink and drive are flirting with death.
It was the worst crash I've ever seen in my life. It's something that when you see on television, you see movies, you see accidents. I don't think I've ever seen anything in the movies that came close to this. When you walk up on a scene and you see a vehicle that looks like somebody stepped on a soda can, and there's people trapped inside. And
the accident itself, being one of the worst in central Pennsylvania in years, resulted in the death of 6 people. At the scene, there was 5 pronounced dead, 2 days later, a sixth victim had died. You can't imagine anybody taking the risk of drinking and driving and then it resulting in the death of 6 people. It's very emotional.
You see somebody sitting there holding their kid with blood from head to toe, screaming, you know, my baby, you gotta get my baby out of here. I mean, it really affects you because there's nothing you can do about it. You know, even though the driver of this crash, technically, his life wasn't taken from him, but in a sense, his life has been taken from him because of the magnitude of this crash and what happened. Even though he didn't die in the crash like the 6 other people did, he can pretty much kiss his life goodbye.
Subsequently charged with homicide by vehicle with 6 counts and other charges. I told 5 families that they had lost loved ones, and again, in the performance of my duties, I'm obligated to do that, and to try and do that in a sensitive way and not show any emotion is difficult. And again, after it's all over, I have to let my emotions that are bottled up inside release and talk to somebody myself.
Have you experienced times when you knew you shouldn't be behind the wheel, but did it anyway? How did you feel after the fact, when you got sober, about driving impaired? And what would you tell your family or friends now about the experience of driving impaired and getting a DUI?